Imagine this. It's late at night, you're tired, maybe a bit stressed, and you reach for your phone. Before you know it, you're lost in a mindless scroll, giving in to the same old habit. Does this sound familiar? Now, let me ask you something. How many times have you felt like that quick fix left you feeling empty, maybe even weaker afterward? It's a pattern we all know too well. But what if I told you there's a way to break it? And not just for your physical health, but for your mental strength too. Today, I want to share a story with you about control, discipline, and how understanding one simple principle from Stoicism could completely change the way you see this habit. Stay with me, because this might be the perspective shift you've been waiting for. The power of self-control, breaking free from destructive habits. Self-control is one of the most powerful tools we have, yet it's often one of the hardest to master. In today's world, where instant gratification is just a swipe away, practicing restraint can feel like an uphill battle. But when we talk about self-control, we're not just talking about resisting temptations. We're talking about a transformative force that can completely reshape your life. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. This is where the philosophy of Stoicism plays a crucial role. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from within. It's not about controlling external events or even controlling others. It's about mastering your own mind, emotions, and actions. When it comes to habits like excessive indulgence in distractions, such as masturbation or mindless scrolling, Stoicism offers a perspective shift that can be life-changing. Instead of viewing these impulses as inevitable or harmless, Stoicism encourages us to see them as obstacles to personal growth and self-mastery. Imagine this. Each time you give in to a habit that leaves you feeling empty afterward, you're reinforcing a cycle of dependence on external pleasure for temporary relief. This doesn't just affect your energy levels. It clouds your mind and weakens your resolve to face bigger challenges. The more you indulge, the harder it becomes to break the cycle. Stoicism teaches that by practicing self-control, you're not just avoiding a negative habit. You're actively training your mind to focus on things that truly matter, things that will lead you to a more fulfilling and purposeful life. In practical terms, breaking free from destructive habits requires awareness. Recognize the moment an urge arises and understand that it's temporary. Stoicism urges us to pause, reflect, and then act in alignment with our higher values, rather than being driven by fleeting desires. By doing so, you are reinforcing the habit of self-discipline, a skill that extends far beyond this single challenge. The key is in realizing that every small victory over your impulses strengthens your ability to control the bigger things in life. Additionally, science supports what Stoics have known for centuries. Excessive indulgence in habits that provide instant pleasure can diminish mental clarity, reduce motivation, and lower overall life satisfaction. Studies show that dopamine-driven activities like excessive screen time or unhealthy habits create a short-term high, followed by a crash that leaves us feeling unmotivated. But when we practice restraint, we actually increase our brain's ability to find joy and satisfaction in deeper, more meaningful pursuits. The power of self-control isn't just about saying no to one specific habit. It's about reclaiming your mental space, your energy, and ultimately your sense of self. You start to realize that by controlling your impulses, you're no longer a slave to them. You're taking back the reins, living with intention, and creating the freedom to focus on what truly matters to you. It's this kind of self-mastery that allows you to become a better version of yourself, someone who is not swayed by momentary temptations, but is driven by long-term goals and values. Breaking free from destructive habits is not easy, but it's also not impossible. The first step is recognizing that true strength comes not from indulging, but from resisting. In this, you begin to unlock a higher level of personal power, one that leads not only to greater success, but to deeper fulfillment and inner peace. By embracing self-control, you're taking a significant step towards living a life aligned with your true purpose, free from the distractions and habits that hold you back. Mind over desire, how discipline transforms your life. Discipline is often seen as restrictive, something that holds us back from enjoying life's pleasures. But what if the opposite were true? What if discipline was actually the key to unlocking a richer, more meaningful life? In the battle between mind and desire, the mind must learn to take control, because desire, unchecked, leads to fleeting satisfaction but long-term dissatisfaction. Discipline is the ability to focus your energy on what truly matters and to direct your actions in alignment with your values, rather than being swept away by momentary urges. Desire is powerful because it taps into our need for immediate gratification. Whether it's indulging in junk food, procrastinating on important tasks, or giving in to distractions, these urges give us quick dopamine hits that feel good in the moment, but leave us feeling empty afterward. The Stoic philosophers understood this well. They believed that our desires are often the very things that enslave us, keeping us trapped in cycles of temporary pleasure and long-term regret. Stoicism teaches that real freedom comes not from indulging every desire, but from mastering them through discipline. Imagine how different your life could be if you had the ability to pause, reflect, and make conscious decisions about your actions instead of being led by impulsive desires. Think about the goals you could achieve, the projects you could complete, and the personal growth you could experience. Discipline isn't about depriving yourself of joy. It's about choosing a deeper, more lasting form of happiness that comes from growth, achievement, and living in alignment with your true purpose. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it builds momentum. Every time you resist a temptation, no matter how small, you strengthen your ability to resist the next one. Over time, this creates a compounding effect. You become more focused, more productive, and more in control of your life. This isn't just about resisting temptation for the sake of it. It's about creating space for the things that truly matter, your goals, your relationships, your personal well-being. Consider the analogy of a garden. If you let weeds grow unchecked, they will take over, choking out the plants you actually want to grow. In the same way, if you allow your desires to run rampant, they will overshadow your true priorities and diminish your potential. Discipline is like the gardener's tool, allowing you to prune away the distractions and focus your attention on what will bring lasting growth and fulfillment. Moreover, science supports the benefits of discipline in creating long-term success. Studies show that individuals who practice self-control and delayed gratification are more likely to achieve their goals and experience higher levels of well-being. The famous marshmallow test is a perfect example of this. In the experiment, children who were able to resist the immediate temptation of eating a marshmallow in exchange for a greater reward later went on to have more successful and fulfilling lives. This experiment demonstrates that the ability to delay gratification, to practice discipline, is a powerful predictor of future success. Discipline also helps you develop a strong sense of self-respect. Every time you choose to act in accordance with your higher values, rather than giving in to base desires, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of achieving your goals. You start to trust yourself more, knowing that you have the power to steer your life in the direction you choose, rather than being a victim of your impulses. This self-trust is crucial because it fuels further growth and development. When you believe in your ability to act with discipline, you become more confident in taking on bigger challenges and pursuing more ambitious goals. In contrast, when we give in to our desires without discipline, we often end up feeling regretful or disappointed in ourselves. We know deep down that we're not living up to our full potential. This creates a cycle of dissatisfaction where we seek more instant gratification to fill the void, only to feel worse afterward. Discipline breaks this cycle by shifting the focus from short-term pleasure to long-term fulfillment. Ultimately, discipline transforms your life by giving you the power to create the life you want. It allows you to prioritize your values, focus on your goals, and resist the distractions that pull you away from your path. It gives you the clarity to see what truly matters and the strength to pursue it with intention. Instead of being a passenger on the journey of life, discipline puts you in the driver's seat, allowing you to steer your life in the direction that leads to growth, achievement, and lasting happiness. In the end, the battle between mind and desire is one we face daily. But every act of discipline is a step toward a life of greater purpose, freedom, and fulfillment. By choosing discipline, you're not denying yourself pleasure. You're choosing a deeper, more meaningful form of happiness that lasts far beyond the fleeting desires of the moment. Stoic wisdom on overcoming instant gratification. Instant gratification has become one of the most pervasive challenges in our modern world. With technology making it easier than ever to satisfy our desires in seconds, whether it's through social media, fast food, or online shopping, we are constantly bombarded with opportunities to indulge in short-term pleasures. But while these instant rewards may feel good in the moment, they often come at the expense of our long-term happiness and success. This is where the timeless wisdom of Stoicism offers powerful insights into overcoming the temptation of instant gratification. At its core, Stoicism teaches us that true happiness and fulfillment come from within, not from external pleasures or material wealth. The Stoics believed that by mastering our desires and focusing on what we can control, we can achieve a sense of inner peace and purpose that no external circumstance can take away. One of the most important lessons Stoicism provides is the value of patience and self-discipline. Instead of chasing after immediate satisfaction, the Stoics encourage us to cultivate the ability to delay gratification in pursuit of more meaningful, lasting rewards. The reason instant gratification is so tempting is that it taps into our brain's natural reward system. When we indulge in something pleasurable, our brain releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This makes us crave more of the same, leading to a cycle where we continuously seek out quick hits of pleasure. However, this cycle can become addictive, leaving us feeling unfulfilled in the long run. Stoicism challenges us to break free from this cycle by focusing on the bigger picture, our long-term goals, values, and sense of purpose. The Stoics believe that indulging in every desire weakens our character and makes us slaves to our impulses. They argued that true freedom comes from learning to control our desires rather than letting them control us. By practicing self-restraint, we develop inner strength, resilience, and clarity of mind. This, in turn, allows us to focus on what truly matters, rather than being distracted by fleeting pleasures. The ability to delay gratification is not just about resisting temptation in the moment. It's about building a life that is aligned with our higher values and long-term aspirations. One of the most famous Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, taught that our suffering often comes not from the events themselves, but from our reactions to them. When we give in to instant gratification, we are essentially reacting to a momentary desire rather than thinking about the consequences of our actions. Epictetus urged us to pause and reflect before acting, asking ourselves whether the immediate pleasure is worth the potential long-term cost. This simple shift in mindset can help us make better decisions and avoid the regret that often follows impulsive actions. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control. In the case of instant gratification, we may not always be able to control the external temptations we face, but we can control our response to them. By practicing mindfulness and self-awareness, We can recognize when we are being drawn toward instant gratification and consciously choose to resist. This act of self-control is not about deprivation, it's about empowerment. When we take control of our desires, we are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. We become the architects of our own lives. One of the key ways to overcome instant gratification is to develop a long-term perspective. The Stoics believe that by keeping our long-term goals in mind, we can make better choices in the present. Instead of focusing on immediate pleasure, we can ask ourselves, how will this decision affect my future self? This question helps shift our focus from short-term satisfaction to long-term fulfillment. When we align our actions with our long-term goals, we experience a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction that far outweighs the fleeting pleasure of instant gratification. Interestingly, modern psychology supports this Stoic principle. Research has shown that individuals who are able to delay gratification tend to be more successful in various areas of life, including education, career, and relationships. The famous marshmallow test, conducted by psychologist Walter Mischel, demonstrated that children who were able to resist the temptation of eating a marshmallow for a greater reward later in life had better life outcomes. This experiment highlights the importance of self-control and the ability to prioritize long-term goals over immediate desires. Moreover, delaying gratification doesn't mean depriving ourselves of pleasure altogether. In fact, the Stoics believe that true pleasure comes not from indulging every desire, but from living in harmony with our values and principles. When we practice self-discipline and patience, we experience a deeper, more meaningful form of pleasure that comes from knowing we are on the right path. This kind of pleasure is sustainable because it is rooted in personal growth, accomplishment, and the pursuit of excellence, rather than in fleeting sensory experiences. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to fall into the trap of instant gratification. But by embracing the wisdom of Stoicism, we can learn to pause, reflect, and make choices that align with our higher purpose. Overcoming the pull of instant gratification isn't about denying ourselves joy. It's about choosing a more profound and lasting form of happiness. By practicing self-control and focusing on long-term goals, we free ourselves from the constant pursuit of momentary pleasure and create a life that is richer, more fulfilling, and aligned with our deepest values. The next time you're faced with the temptation of instant gratification, remember the Stoic advice to pause and consider the long-term consequences. Is this momentary pleasure truly worth the cost? Or is there a greater reward waiting for you if you choose patience and discipline? In this way, Stoicism offers us the tools to not only resist short-term temptations, but to transform our lives in ways that lead to lasting happiness and fulfillment. Mental clarity. Through self-mastery, a Stoic's approach. Mental clarity is something we all seek, but often struggle to maintain, especially in a world full of distractions, pressures, and constant stimulation. We all know the feeling of mental fog, when our thoughts are scattered, decisions are difficult, and our mind feels overwhelmed. This is where the concept of self-mastery comes into play, and no philosophy speaks more directly to it than Stoicism. For the Stoics, mental clarity wasn't just a nice-to-have quality. It was essential for living a good life. Through self-mastery, they believed we could clear the mental noise and focus on what truly matters. The Stoics understood that our minds are constantly under attack by external events and internal desires. These forces can pull us in different directions, making it difficult to stay focused and centered. Self-mastery, in the Stoic sense, is the ability to remain in control of your thoughts, emotions, and actions regardless of what is happening around you. It's about developing a calm, clear mind that is not easily swayed by distractions or impulses. One of the foundational principles of Stoicism is the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. Our thoughts and actions are within our control. External events and the behavior of others are not. This simple but profound insight is the key to mental clarity. When we waste energy worrying about things outside of our control, our minds become cluttered with unnecessary stress and anxiety. Stoicism teaches us to let go of these distractions and focus only on what we can control: our response to situations, our attitude, and our behavior. This shift in focus is incredibly liberating and allows us to clear away the mental fog that often clouds our judgment. Self-mastery requires discipline, and discipline begins with self-awareness. The Stoics were masters of self-reflection, constantly examining their thoughts and actions to ensure they aligned with their values. This practice of introspection helps us identify the sources of mental clutter in our lives. Are we reacting to external pressures? Are we being driven by fear, anger, or desire? Once we become aware of these influences, we can begin to take control of them rather than letting them control us. This is where mental clarity begins, by cutting through the noise and focusing on what is essential. A critical aspect of self-mastery is the ability to resist impulsive reactions. The Stoics believed that impulsive reactions, driven by emotions like anger, fear, or desire, cloud our judgment and lead to poor decisions. By practicing mindfulness and restraint, we can train our minds to pause before reacting. This moment of pause creates the space needed for clear, rational thinking. It allows us to assess the situation calmly, weigh our options, and choose the response that best aligns with our values and long-term goals. Over time, this practice of mindful response strengthens our mental clarity and sharpens our decision-making abilities. Another important Stoic principle is the idea of accepting things as they are. Often, mental clutter arises from our resistance to reality, our desire for things to be different than they are. This resistance creates frustration, stress, and confusion. The Stoics taught that by accepting reality as it is, without judgment or resistance, we can free our minds from unnecessary suffering. This doesn't mean passively accepting injustice or giving up on improving our lives. Rather, it means recognizing what we cannot change and directing our energy toward what we can. This acceptance brings a sense of peace and clarity, as we no longer waste mental energy fighting against the inevitable. In addition to acceptance, Stoicism emphasizes the importance of focusing on the present moment. Much of our mental clutter comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. When our minds are constantly jumping between these time frames, it becomes difficult to stay focused and clear-headed. The Stoics urged us to concentrate on the here and now, reminding us that the present moment is the only one we truly have control over. By grounding ourselves in the present, we can quiet the mental chatter and engage fully with what is in front of us. Stoicism also teaches that simplicity is key to mental clarity. In a world of constant information and sensory overload, it's easy for our minds to become overstimulated. The Stoics practiced a philosophy of simplicity, focusing on what is necessary and letting go of what is not. This can be applied not just to physical possessions, but also to thoughts, emotions, and relationships. By simplifying our lives and cutting out the excess, we create more mental space for clear thinking and deeper reflection. Self-mastery, according to the Stoics, is not about denying our emotions or suppressing our desires. It's about understanding them, controlling them, and using them to our advantage. Mental clarity comes when we stop being reactive to every emotional or external stimulus and start acting in accordance with reason and virtue. This doesn't mean we become emotionless. Rather, we learn to regulate our emotions so that they don't dominate our thoughts or lead us astray from our higher purpose. The benefits of mental clarity extend to every aspect of life. When our minds are clear, we make better decisions, we communicate more effectively, and we experience less stress and anxiety. We become more productive because we can focus on our tasks without being constantly distracted. We also experience deeper relationships because we are fully present in our interactions with others. Mental clarity allows us to see things as they are, without the distortions caused by unchecked emotions or desires. This leads to a more peaceful, fulfilling life. In the end, self-mastery and mental clarity are deeply interconnected. To achieve mental clarity, we must practice self-mastery, controlling our thoughts, emotions, and actions with intention and discipline. Through Stoic principles such as acceptance, mindfulness, simplicity, and self-awareness, we can cut through the mental clutter and focus on what truly matters. This not only leads to a clearer mind, but also to a more meaningful, purpose-driven life. The journey towards self-mastery is not easy, but the rewards, peace of mind, clarity, and a deeper sense of fulfillment are well worth the effort. Reclaiming your focus, the Stoic path to inner strength. In today's world where distractions are abundant and constant, maintaining focus has become more challenging than ever. Notifications, social media, work demands, and personal responsibilities all compete for our attention, pulling us in different directions. Yet focus is one of the most critical components for achieving success, personal growth, and fulfillment. Without focus, our efforts are scattered and our progress slows. Stoicism, a philosophy built around self-discipline, mindfulness, and intentional living, offers valuable insights on how to reclaim focus and cultivate inner strength. At the heart of Stoicism is the principle of directing attention to what we can control. Focus, in this sense, isn't just about working hard. It's about being intentional with where we place our energy. The Stoics understood that we waste a significant amount of mental and emotional energy on things outside of our control, external events, the opinions of others, or fears about the future. By narrowing our focus to what we can influence, we free up mental space and energy to concentrate on what truly matters. This shift in perspective is transformative because it reduces the mental clutter that often distracts us from our goals. One of the key strategies for reclaiming focus is practicing mindfulness. Stoicism teaches that mindfulness, being fully aware of the present moment and our thoughts, helps us become more conscious of how we are using our attention. In modern terms, we can think of this as mental bandwidth. If we are constantly distracted by worries or external stimuli, our mental bandwidth is spread thin, making it difficult to focus on any one thing. The Stoics advocated for being deliberate with our thoughts and actions, ensuring that we are not allowing unnecessary distractions to take up space in our minds. Distractions, by their nature, often lure us with the promise of immediate gratification. Whether it's scrolling through social media, responding to a non-urgent message, or indulging in a mental daydream, these distractions provide a quick dopamine hit that makes us feel momentarily better. But Stoicism encourages us to think beyond the short-term pleasure of distractions and to focus on the long-term rewards of discipline and concentration. True focus requires resisting the temptation of immediate gratification and instead investing our attention in things that will lead to lasting growth and fulfillment. This is where inner strength comes into play. Focus isn't just a mental act, it's an expression of inner strength. It requires discipline to say no to distractions, especially when they seem so appealing in the moment. The Stoics understood that inner strength comes from the ability to control our impulses and remain steadfast in our pursuit of meaningful goals. When we cultivate focus, we are building this strength, training ourselves to resist the pull of external distractions and stay aligned with our higher purpose. To enhance focus, Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of setting clear intentions. Without a clear purpose or goal, it's easy to become distracted because we lack a guiding direction. The Stoics were deliberate in their actions, always reflecting on their goals and values to ensure their efforts were aligned with what was truly important to them. This practice of intentionality can be incredibly powerful in reclaiming focus. When we are clear about what we want to achieve, we are more likely to stay committed to our tasks and less likely to be swayed by distractions. One practical technique that Stoicism promotes is breaking down large goals into smaller, more manageable tasks. When we are faced with a big, overwhelming goal, it's easy to lose focus because the task feels too daunting. By breaking it into smaller steps, we make the goal more achievable, and our focus becomes sharper as we work on each individual piece. This not only makes the process more manageable, but also allows us to celebrate small wins along the way, reinforcing our focus and motivation to keep going. Additionally, Stoicism teaches us the importance of routine and discipline in maintaining focus. Focus is not something we achieve once and then have forever. It's a skill that must be practiced and strengthened over time. The Stoics believed in the power of daily habits to reinforce discipline. By creating routines that support focus, such as setting aside specific times for deep work or limiting distractions during key tasks, we can train our minds to stay on track more consistently. Discipline in this regard doesn't restrict us. Rather, it frees us by creating an environment where focus becomes natural and easier to maintain. The Stoics also placed a strong emphasis on the idea of memento mori, or the reminder of our mortality. This concept is not meant to be morbid, but rather a tool for sharpening focus. When we realize that our time on earth is limited, we become more intentional about how we spend it. We are less likely to waste time on trivial distractions and more motivated to use our focus for meaningful pursuits. This awareness of the finite nature of life encourages us to prioritize what truly matters and to cut out the distractions that dilute our energy and attention. Moreover, reclaiming focus through Stoicism involves cultivating emotional resilience. Our emotions can often be a source of distraction, whether it's stress, frustration, or anxiety. When we allow our emotions to dictate our actions, we lose focus and become reactive rather than proactive. The Stoics taught that while we cannot always control our emotions, we can control how we respond to them. By developing emotional resilience, learning to accept and manage our emotions without letting them derail our focus, we strengthen our ability to stay centered even in challenging situations. In the end, reclaiming focus is about much more than just avoiding distractions. It's about cultivating a mindset of intentionality, discipline, and inner strength. It's about recognizing that our time and attention are precious resources that should be directed toward what truly matters in our lives. Stoicism provides a roadmap for achieving this by teaching us to focus on what we can control, set clear intentions, build discipline through routine, and cultivate emotional resilience. When we reclaim our focus, we reclaim our power. We become more productive, more effective, and more fulfilled because we are no longer at the mercy of every passing distraction. Instead, we are in control, directing our energy toward our highest goals and values. This, ultimately, is the path to inner strength, the ability to stay true to ourselves and our purpose, even in a world full of noise and distraction. Through focus, we unlock our potential and create a life of greater meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Channeling energy for growth, from impulse to discipline. Energy is one of the most valuable resources we possess. It fuels our actions, shapes our productivity, and determines the quality of our achievements. But how we choose to direct our energy is what truly defines whether it leads to growth or stagnation. In today's world, it's easy to let impulses dictate where our energy goes, toward distractions, short-term pleasures, or habits that drain us rather than empower us. The Stoic philosophy, however, offers a powerful framework for channeling energy with purpose and intention. By moving from impulse to discipline, we can harness our energy to fuel growth, self-improvement, and long-term success. Impulse is often driven by immediate gratification, a desire for quick results, or a need to satisfy fleeting urges. These impulses can manifest in many forms: procrastination, indulging in unhealthy habits, or letting emotions like anger or frustration control our actions. While impulses may offer temporary relief or pleasure, they rarely lead to lasting fulfillment. In fact, they often divert our energy away from what truly matters. The Stoics recognized this, emphasizing the importance of discipline as the foundation for a meaningful and virtuous life. Discipline, in contrast to impulse, is the conscious act of directing energy toward what aligns with our values and long-term goals. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to think before acting, and to choose actions that contribute to our growth rather than our immediate comfort. Stoicism teaches that discipline is not about denying ourselves pleasure or freedom, but about exercising control over our desires and impulses in order to lead a life of purpose. When we channel our energy through discipline, we become masters of our own fate, no longer swayed by external circumstances or internal whims. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it builds momentum over time. Every time we choose discipline over impulse, we strengthen our capacity for self-control and intentional living. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more disciplined we become, the easier it is to make disciplined choices in the future. This is because discipline is a skill, one that grows with practice. When we consistently channel our energy toward productive, meaningful actions, we develop the mental and emotional resilience needed to resist the pull of distractions and temptations. The Stoics understood that discipline is the key to unlocking our potential. Without it, we are at the mercy of our impulses, constantly reacting to external stimuli rather than pursuing our higher goals. By cultivating discipline, we create a structure within which our energy can be effectively used. This doesn't mean that we suppress all desires or never indulge in pleasures. Rather, it means that we make conscious decisions about where our energy goes, ensuring that it serves our growth rather than undermining it. One practical way to channel energy for growth is to establish clear priorities. The Stoics were firm believers in focusing on what truly matters and letting go of the trivial or inconsequential. By setting clear goals and priorities, we give our energy a direction. This helps us avoid the scattershot approach that comes from trying to do too many things at once or from being pulled in multiple directions by impulse. When we know what our most important goals are, we can channel our energy toward them with intention and focus, ensuring that we make consistent progress. In addition to setting priorities, the Stoics emphasized the importance of routine in cultivating discipline. A well-structured routine helps us conserve mental energy by reducing the number of decisions we have to make throughout the day. When certain tasks become habitual, such as exercising, meditating, or working on a specific project, we no longer have to expend energy deciding whether or not to do them. Instead, we can simply focus on executing those tasks, freeing up mental space for more important decisions. This is a powerful way to channel energy effectively, as it allows us to be more efficient and productive with the time and energy we have. Another key component of channeling energy for growth is emotional regulation. Our emotions can be one of the biggest drains on our energy, especially when we allow negative emotions like anger, fear, or frustration to control us. The Stoics believed that while we cannot always control the emotions we feel, we can control how we respond to them. By practicing emotional resilience, we can prevent emotions from dictating our actions and consuming our energy. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about acknowledging them without letting them take over. When we respond to emotions with mindfulness and discipline, we conserve energy and use it in ways that align with our goals. Stoicism also teaches us the importance of embracing challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of avoiding difficulty or seeking the path of least resistance, the Stoics believed that challenges are what strengthen us. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to practice discipline, to direct our energy toward overcoming obstacles, and to build resilience. By viewing challenges in this way, we transform them from energy drains into opportunities for personal development. Each time we rise to a challenge, we grow stronger, more focused, and more capable of directing our energy toward meaningful pursuits. The Stoic practice of amor fati, or loving one's fate, further reinforces this mindset. By accepting everything that happens to us as an opportunity for growth, we stop wasting energy resisting reality or wishing things were different. Instead, we embrace what comes our way, using it as fuel for our personal development. This mindset allows us to channel energy that would otherwise be wasted on frustration or regret into actions that move us forward. In the end, channeling energy for growth is about making conscious choices in how we use our time, focus, and effort. It's about moving from a reactive state where we are constantly driven by impulses to a proactive state where we intentionally direct our energy toward our highest values and goals. Discipline is the tool that allows us to do this, helping us break free from the cycle of instant gratification and short-term thinking. By adopting the Stoic approach of discipline, mindfulness, and intentional living, we can reclaim our energy from the distractions and impulses that drain it. We can channel that energy into the actions, habits, and pursuits that lead to growth, fulfillment, and long-term success. In doing so, we not only achieve more, but also experience a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction, knowing that our energy is being used in ways that truly matter. The Journey to True Freedom, Stoic Lessons on Personal Power. True freedom is something many of us aspire to, yet often misunderstand. In today's world, freedom is frequently equated with the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want. However, this form of freedom is more superficial than it appears. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom is not about external circumstances or the absence of restrictions, but about inner autonomy, freedom from our own destructive impulses, desires, and fears. According to Stoic philosophy, personal power and freedom come not from indulging in every whim, but from mastering oneself. One of the central ideas of Stoicism is that we are only truly free when we control how we respond to life's events. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external situations, what people say, how they act, or the challenges life throws at us, we can always control how we respond to them. This internal control is the source of true freedom. When we stop trying to change what is outside of our control and instead focus on governing our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, we achieve a level of personal power that external circumstances cannot shake. The journey to true freedom begins with understanding the Stoic distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, emphasized that we should concern ourselves only with our own actions, thoughts, and attitudes. Everything else, other people's behavior, natural events, and outcomes beyond our direct influence, should be met with acceptance. This mindset shift is liberating because it frees us from the frustration, anxiety, and disappointment that come from trying to control things we can't. When we let go of the need to control external factors, we reclaim our energy and focus, allowing us to direct it toward what truly matters, our own growth and well-being. True freedom also requires emotional resilience. Often, we are imprisoned not by external forces, but by our own emotions. Anger, fear, envy, and desire can cloud our judgment, drive impulsive actions, and prevent us from making decisions that align with our higher values. The Stoics believed that emotional freedom comes from understanding that emotions are natural but do not have to control us. Through mindfulness and self-reflection, we can observe our emotions without being dominated by them. This doesn't mean suppressing or denying feelings, but recognizing them as temporary states that we can choose to act upon or not. By practicing emotional regulation, we gain the power to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, thus maintaining our inner freedom. A critical element of personal power is self-discipline. The Stoics understood that without discipline, we are slaves to our own desires and impulses. We may think we are free when we indulge every craving, but in reality, we become prisoners of those cravings. True freedom requires the ability to say no to short-term pleasures in favor of long-term fulfillment. This is where the Stoic practice of apatheia comes into play. Not to be confused with apathy, but rather a state of being free from destructive passions. Apatheia allows us to maintain inner peace and clarity, even when faced with temptations or challenges. It is through this kind of discipline that we gain the personal power to stay focused on our goals, values, and principles. The Stoics also believed that true freedom comes from living in alignment with nature, or, more precisely, living in harmony with the rational order of the universe. For them, this meant understanding that everything happens according to a greater plan, and our role is to act virtuously within that plan. This sense of cosmic order can provide comfort and perspective, reminding us that while we may not control everything, we are part of something larger. By accepting this, we can let go of the need to fight against reality or to wish that things were different. This acceptance is not passive resignation, but an active embrace of life as it is, empowering us to navigate it with grace and wisdom. Another key to achieving true freedom is developing what the Stoics called indifference to externals. This doesn't mean being indifferent in a careless or detached way, but rather understanding that external things, wealth, status, health, even other people's opinions, are ultimately outside our control and therefore should not dictate our sense of happiness or self-worth. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the idea that we should remain indifferent to things that do not affect our moral character. Our worth, in Stoic terms, comes from how we live according to virtue, not from external success or failure. By detaching our sense of fulfillment from external outcomes, we free ourselves from the anxieties and pressures that often keep us trapped in cycles of fear and desire. The journey to true freedom also involves cultivating gratitude for what we have rather than focusing on what we lack. The Stoics were masters of gratitude, believing that happiness comes from appreciating the present moment and the gifts it brings, no matter how small. This mindset shift from scarcity to abundance fosters a sense of inner freedom. When we constantly chase after what we don't have, we are bound by our desires, always reaching for something outside ourselves to make us feel complete. But when we practice gratitude, we find that we already have enough, and this realization releases us from the endless cycle of wanting more. Furthermore, true freedom requires us to face our fears, particularly the fear of death. For the Stoics, death was a natural part of life, and fearing it was irrational. By accepting our mortality, we free ourselves from the anxiety that comes with the unknown and the inevitable. This acceptance allows us to live more fully, to make the most of the present moment without being paralyzed by fear of the future. The Stoic practice of memento mori, remembering that we will die, was not meant to be morbid, but to inspire a deeper appreciation for life and a commitment to living in accordance with our values. When we no longer fear death, we are free to live authentically and courageously. Ultimately, the Stoic path to true freedom is about taking full responsibility for our lives. It's about understanding that we are in control of our actions, thoughts, and responses, no matter what happens around us. This internal control gives us the power to live in alignment with our highest values, to stay calm in the face of adversity, and to pursue a life of virtue and purpose. When we cultivate this inner freedom, we become immune to the distractions, temptations, and pressures that seek to control us from the outside. We become truly free, not because we can do whatever we want, but because we have learned to master ourselves. As we've explored today, true freedom, discipline, and focus all come from within. Stoicism offers a timeless roadmap for overcoming distractions, mastering our impulses, and living a life aligned with our highest values. It's not about perfection, but about consistent progress, about choosing growth over comfort and clarity over confusion. By embracing these Stoic principles, you take back control of your life, guiding your actions with purpose and finding fulfillment in the pursuit of wisdom and virtue. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, the power to change and live a more meaningful life is already within you. Stay strong, stay focused, and continue to cultivate that inner strength. Until next time, take care and keep pushing forward.